So my name is Pirita Mattola, or Prita, as locals call me. I'm originally from Finland, and I've been in Canada for about 10 years now. And I met my spouse while I was living in Spain, and he's from Saskatchewan, and that's how I ended up here.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you do here.
So I'm the manager of the International Student and Study Abroad Center. So I get to work with fantastic people also who are from all over the world and who are passionate about supporting international students and supporting the internationalization efforts of the university. I think the biggest difficulty was that people assumed that I was from here and I shared their lens and culture and values, and they saw only the similarities that we had, but they didn't necessarily have an interest in how we were different or understanding for how my life experiences might be different from theirs.
And so what do you notice when you're supporting students and they first come here? What are some of the real difficulties that you have to think about with your orientation or work through with them, particularly in this environment?
Any newcomers, they often experience this sensory overload coming to a new country and culture. Not just the language, it's the weather, it's the way the society operates, it's having to go about getting through the day using your second or third language, not having your support network. So I think getting oriented and offering information and support in smaller pieces is important for students so that they don't get overwhelmed and they're able to absorb the information and get the most out of those encounters. That lack of sense of belonging after the initial adaptation phase is one of the things that we keep seeing and dealing with. So students might feel quite alone and lost for even a number of years, depending on their abilities to make friends and connect with locals as well.
And what do you notice? We're talking more and more about mental health at the moment, but when it comes to international students, what was your observation of that, particularly if they're from a culture where there are barriers to recognizing mental health issues, or in some cultures where there aren't even words for certain mental health issues? What are your observations of that with students?
Mental health is a very complicated topic, and it's sometimes difficult to talk about with students, again, depending on their culture and experiences and how they perceive health. In some cultures, mental health is just one dimension of wellness, and there's spiritual, physical, other aspects to wellness. And in other countries, like you said, there isn't even a word for mental illness. You're either healthy or you're crazy. So when it comes to help seeking and encouraging our students to get support before things escalate, before they're in very desperate situations, it's sometimes hard to convince them that it's okay to go and ask for support, and it's okay to reach out, and it's okay to even have those feelings, and it's okay to fail. I think as a society and in many other places of the world too, we're so afraid of failing, and there's a lot of pressure to fit in. There's a lot of pressure to succeed, and we have a very narrow definition of what success and all of those things should look like. So trying to treat every individual, kind of meet them where they are and see how can we get them the help they need, sometimes before they even realize that they need it.
That's great. So what do you think would be a couple of bits of advice that you would give to anyone who is moving to Saskatoon for the first time? And whether it's about their health and well-being or professional life or even just adjusting to people or finding community?
Do some research ahead of time about where it is that you're headed. Appreciate where you're coming from, and don't lose your identity, even if you go to a new place and there's pressures to fit in and pressures to assimilate. So do keep following your traditions and keep in mind your past and where you want to go next. When it comes to finding that sense of belonging in your new community, getting involved in activities, whether it's in an organization where you're working, in a school, volunteering, all of those things are great for making new connections. But it's also important to stay in touch with the people back home, I suppose, or where you came from. So again, you don't lose yourself in that new environment.
Hi, I'm Renuka from India.
And how long have you been in Saskatoon, and what do you do here?
I'm here in Saskatoon last 5 years. I came to Canada 9 years before.
So what kind of work do you do in Saskatoon?
I work with a non-profit organization, and I came to Canada 9 years before, and I have worked in different field in different countries, and I have brought rich experience with me in different sector.
And so what for you or for other people do you feel are some of the challenges of arriving in Canada?
Okay, Canada is a beautiful country. I love it here. I feel lucky and I feel thankful that I'm here in this beautiful country. Only thing is, initially to settle down, I just feel one thing, that for highly skilled workers, I feel there are less opportunity in the beginning to settle down them here. So if they have more opportunities, how they can settle down here in the initial stages, that would be great. Like greater facilities if we have.
And so what does that difficulty actually feel like emotionally when you arrive and people don't seem to recognize or have any interest in what you've done in your career before then?
I'm from educational background, and when I came here, it was great. I got, in first week, I got in York University, and I taught there. But then after that, after 1 year, I was searching in the same field. So finding in your same field highly professionally, if you are, and so much work experience, it's harder to get job in the same field. So what I feel, if we have more opportunities to work towards that, for some classes or federal funded some facilities, more for skilled workers, it will be easier for them to settle down here.
And so if knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to people who are coming to Canada or coming to Saskatoon for the first time?
With my experience, I would advise that when someone is coming here, they should do some research that in which field they would like to work, and or in their own field. They can find out some courses to update their skills accordingly to adjust here, and then they can go in that same field work. It will be easier to get it then.
And what are your thoughts about finding a sense of belonging or community here in Saskatoon? Because it's one of the things that people often struggle with, feeling quite lonely or isolated. What have some of your experiences or other people's experiences have been of trying to find or build community?
My experience is beautiful because I had here family and friends, so it was easier. I never felt lonely because some of my friends, they helped me to settle down initially, and then I also did my work and research, and I did a lot of volunteer work to know the society here, to settle down and to mix with them, and to get my job in the field.
Great. Is there anything else you wanted to say on those kind of topics?
I would say that we should explore all the opportunities are here. There are plenty of opportunities. If not in our own field, we can switch related skills, and we can find in that. And initially, we can do some job to survive here, and then we can look forward to get in our own field. because it is very important when you come here, there is a financial support for yourself.
So my name is Immaculée Kanzaire. I am originally from Rwanda, but I landed here in 2011 from Belgium.
Okay. And so what do you do? What do you do your work here in Saskatoon? Do you have family here?
Yeah, I have a family, 2 kids, and I'm helping newcomers, Francophone newcomers, to settle in Saskatoon. And I'm helping them to find the first job, which is not usually easy, but.
So tell me a little bit about that. Why is that not easy? Tell us a little bit about some of people's experiences of trying to find that first job.
It's not easy because when you came here, many employers are asking for the first experience, but you are looking for that first experience, and it's hard. It's hard for everyone, even if you have many years of experience. Even if you are looking something just for living, it's not easy. You are not. You need to
It's okay. Just take a second if you want to. When employers look at people's CVs, for example, what are some of the difficulties people are finding with the feedback they're getting or not getting when they present a CV, for example, with experience or qualifications from another country?
I'm guessing it's about because they don't know you, so you need to have a network before, and then someone will help you to go through the process of the first job.
And so what was your experience of coming here and some of the difficulties that you faced? Because I know you were elsewhere in Canada first. Maybe you can talk about that, and then coming to Saskatoon and some of the difficulties that you faced in doing that.
So for me, I can say that I had a chance to be connected with the Francophone community, which helped me a lot. It's a need when you are new here and you are looking for a job, and no one knows you, so you will need someone to say, yes, I know this person, and they will give you a chance if someone presents you to someone else.
Yeah, when you come to a new place, what we really need is connection to other people and that people understand us. What are some of the experiences you had or you see other people having of struggling to find that community or that sense of belonging?
Depend on where you live and the people around you. Some will be open to welcome you and will help you, but you need to be open as well to get to find people and to talk to them.
And so what advice would you give people who are starting out in Canada or starting out in Saskatoon?
I would say I would say that they need to be open to get ready to start over everything, and to be happy and not willing to be where you were before you came here. So it's a new life. It's a new environment. You need to learn how to live in Canada.
My name is Kyle Yuzhu Liu. I'm from China. It was in 2011 when I first came to Canada to pursue my PhD in public policy.
And so, what does your work look like today?
Yeah, so after my graduation, I have been working as a postdoc fellow at Johnson Sharma Graduate School of Public Policy at the University of Saskatchewan until today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when you first arrived in Saskatoon, and maybe even today, what are some of the challenges that you found or that you and your family found moving to Saskatoon?
I think the first thing was cultural shock and also the loneliness, because when I first came here, I knew nobody, so it was isolation feeling on my side, and I had to start school right away, right after I arrived in Canada. So very short period of time of preparation for everything.
And so why do you think it's so difficult for people to find a community when they move to a new place like Saskatoon? What are some of the barriers to finding that community?
I think nowadays it's much better, but when you first came here, it just I think it's part of the reason is also on us because we didn't reach out to people, and I think today I realize there are so many agencies providing support. So if we don't reach out, we will be left behind. So I think it's sometimes it's also we, us as the newcomer, we have to find the resources and the support network.
And so knowing what you do now, what advice would you give people who are coming to Saskatoon for the first time?
I would say this is a lovely place. People are super nice. So just take your time and everything will be okay.
What do you think people can do? Because you talked about the idea of knowing about those kind of agencies. What do you think people have to do in order to be brave to meet people? What do you think that looks like?
Okay. So I think people should just. I think they should believe in themselves because they already made the first move to Canada. So nothing can prevent you from overcoming all the odds and the challenges. So just believe in yourself and jump out of your comfort zone, and you can do it.
And why do you think that's difficult for some people in terms of their personality or culture? Because I don't want to generalize Chinese people, but they tend to be quite quiet and conservative. Is it more difficult from your own culture to actually be bold and brave to meet new people?
I think you're right. Many people from China that we believe that sometimes you just keep everything to yourself and don't show everything to anybody. So I think that's kind of a part of the culture. But I think it's also changing now, especially in the past 20 years, many Chinese people went abroad to pursue opportunities. So I think that's also changing. And also through the existing social and also social network with the people from the same hometown, I think people are trying to just reach out to the people from the same region first, just before or even when they arrive in Canada. I think that will help.
So we've talked a little bit with a few people. You talked about loneliness, about people's health, particularly their mental health. What are some of the risks of coming to a new place and feeling isolated, but also keeping a lot of the difficulties inside, not sharing those? Do you see that there's any dangers for people in not being able to share their emotions and being isolated?
I think, of course, like if you, because especially in Saskatoon, I think it's a small city. So when people first came to Canada, Saskatoon, especially for Chinese people, we have a very big population. We all from kind of cities with more than 2 million population. So when people first came here, they will feel just in a very remote area. And also in the cold winter, people maybe easily get depressed. So I think that's kind of the danger. And also, if you don't talk to anyone, that kind of depression will grow inside you. So I think that's kind of the danger that people need to be aware of.
And do you think that people always, certainly from your culture, always have permission to go and seek help, for example, from counsellors? What does that look like, do you think, in your community, the idea that you would go and talk to someone about your mental health if you're struggling with depression?
I don't know too much about that, but I think, like here in Canada, not many people realize that depression is a problem. And I think people have to get more education about the depression and also the negative impact of depression on their lives, so they can just proactively seek advice and help. Yeah.
That's great. Was there anything else that you wanted to say that you thought of, that you thought, oh, maybe I'd like to say that? It's okay if the answer is no, that's okay.
I just want to say I have been living in Saskatoon for more than 8 years. The longer I stay, I like this city even more. So especially the people all connected with each other, and you cannot find that in some big cities. So I would say I like Saskatoon and I like Canada.
And can you maybe, just with that idea in mind, can you just comment upon maybe the importance of being patient, not expecting everything to happen immediately, but the idea that you have to be patient, but you also have to be proactive in meeting people and building community?
I think there are many ways people can interpret this, but I think there are always the strengths within each one of us. So I think you have to believe in yourself, but also at the meantime you have to be pragmatic about the situation, because you are coming to a very different country with very different culture and rules, regulations. So you have to make sure that you are willing to learn new things, and you should be not afraid of any challenges or difficulties, because you are already here. You are a champion, and then you just build on your networks and also your strengths, and try to fully integrate into the local society. I think that's kind of people need to understand that.
My name is Hongsen Zhao, and originally came from China. I came to Saskatchewan to pursue my PhD study, and it's back in 2012.
And can you tell me about your PhD? What did you study?
My major is in educational administration.
And so what are you doing now?
Right now, I'm working as a principal in a Chinese language school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, if you remember when you first arrived, or maybe some of the experiences of other people in your own community, what were some of the real challenges of arriving and starting life in Saskatoon?
I think the most challenging situation is my language is not that fluent, and I have to take my lot of time learning how to read, write, and like speaking and listening skills. So it takes me most of the energy to learn a new language.
And so for what kind of other things, so when it comes to making friends and building a new community and making a new life, what were some of the difficulties with that?
I think first of all, the how do you build up your new friends circles is the most challenging one for me, because around me, all my colleagues are from like local schools. They are already principals or managing level staffs, so they are like older people, not like my age. So it's difficult for me to make friends with them, as you know, having a lot of like gaps, like generation gaps with them.
And so what do you think people experience? Like I was asking Kyle about the idea of loneliness when you're trying to make friends, and how difficult it can be to ask for help, particularly when you're lonely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's also really hard to express yourself when you're not feeling really confident, and when you feel you're not as good as what you wish to be. It's really hard to tell somebody that you're in a bad situation, or you're in a problem situation, and to solve the problem, you have to learn how to find a good way to solve the problem, and you have to ask for help, and you have to consult with people and be open-minded, and that's the most difficult time I experienced also, yeah.
Okay. And so what are some, maybe one or two pieces of advice that you would give to people, whether they were coming from China or somewhere else, coming here for the first time, based upon your experience?
I think first of all, you have to learn the language, because you have to know how to communicate with people. That's the first thing that you will do. And then you have to learn about the culture, because not only the language will be associated with the culture, but when you get along with people, and also you will have to find your new goals and your new ways of communication. You have to know the way or the behavior you should be good at, or you should build up a new way of expressing yourself, and also get to know a new culture, respect for their culture, and that is a way that you build a good relationship with others.
How do you find people in terms of friendliness and being welcoming?
The friendly, which means to me, is people respect your personality and respect your culture, because they are ready to accept you, and which can be really friendly to you to make friends with them. And also people are really open-minded, and they respect not only your culture, but maybe your values, your goals, and your behaviors and your ways of celebrating your holidays or anything else.
My name's Hong. My full name's Trần Việt Hùng. I'm come from Vietnam.
And so how long have you been in Saskatoon?
Well, today I come here exactly 3 months. Yeah.
And so why did you come to Saskatoon? What are you doing here?
Yeah, you know that there's many reasons for anyone to come here. For myself, I come here first for my children. I want my children have a good life, a good education, and you know that my children can realize in the study, not like in my country, studies hard, but don't receive the knowledge. And when I come here, up to now, I still looking for a job.
So tell me about your family.
Yeah.
How old are your children?
Okay.
What does your wife do?
Yeah. My family have four people. Me, my wife, 30 years old, 30 years old. I have two boys. The older is 7 years old, and the little boy is 14 months.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit about your experience so far of looking for a job and what you're looking for, but also how that's felt for you. Maybe a little bit about what you did in Vietnam before you came here. And so if you're looking for the same kind of work, how's that felt for you?
Yeah. I want to share a little bit about my background in Vietnam. I graduated one university, Hanoi University of Technology. It's quite big university in Vietnam for biotechnologies. I also graduated MBA master from Leipzig program. And in Vietnam, I work as a agriculture business consultant. When I come here, you know that one of the difficulties for me is looking for a job. Because when I come here, every people ask about Canadian experience and all about the reference. You have a friend or some person who interview you? No, because I have just come here. I don't have a friend. I don't have relative. I don't know somebody here. So how can I have a reference? You know, yeah, just 3 months, and it's quite hard for looking for a job, especially the job related to my expertise. And now I start to apply some course, like English course and training course, but still in West English. Yeah. Well, you know that I come here with my dream, with my happy to, you know that I prepared 2 years to have a permanent resident to come here. And at first, I'm very excited, not also me, but also my family, my kid. He also very like about the snow, and I prepare a lot. But when I come here, and I say to you that I don't have reference. I don't have Canary experience, and every day when I bring my resume to come to any, or I send the online application, no one answer me, no one call me for interview, no one give me an opportunity to talk with me because no one interview me. You know, my emotion is, you know, like from the exciting to a little bit sad because I don't use my knowledge. I don't use my background, my 12-year experience to work, and it made me a little bit down emotion. And you know that come here 3 months, I take a little bit time to set up my life, and now I focus a lot about finding a job because without a job, I cannot have, I will not have income, and I cannot feed my children.
Tell me about so you're aiming to find a job that uses your expertise, but the reality is you might have to find any job. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Oh, I try at first, as every friends, every people come here, want to contribute their knowledge, their experience, their expertise to have job and to contribute for the society. But you know, it's very difficult to find the job with my related to my experience. Even if Saskatchewan is, we can say that is the agriculture's province, but the company they the company, even they don't care about the newcomer. They don't care about the person without reference. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to say, but I'm now I'm trying to find the entry level job, and hopefully that 1 or 2 years after I have a Canadian experience, and I might be have some kind of more certificate related my field. Maybe I will have opportunity to interview with the company. You know that try to find a professional job is not easy. So to feed my family, to feel myself is useful for the society, I can accept to work any entry level job. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Now, so if with the experience you've had, what advice would you give other people coming from Vietnam or somewhere else in the world? What advice would you give them about coming here and starting life here, or maybe their expectations? What advice would you give?
Yeah, the first thing I think that they should connect with the Vietnamese community here, to like me or some of my friends, to explore about the reality in here, about the life, about the difficult to looking for job. And the second, they should also try to have some kind of certificate from Canada, maybe online, or do some, the transfer the education to Canadian standard, so they will have well prepared, or some people should have learn other thing to come here to have a job already.
I'm Doha Korsa. I am originally from Syria. I came to Canada at the end of 2014.
And so tell me about that experience of moving to Saskatoon and perhaps some of the challenges of moving here.
Okay, so we left Syria when the war started. We left in the beginning of 2012. We traveled to Malaysia, and we applied for refugee there when the situation was so complicated. And then we stayed there for more than 3 years. And we've been accepted to come to Canada as refugees, as a government-sponsored refugees. Then I came with my 5 children. And then I sponsored my husband and my son. And they came after 1 year of our arrival to here.
And so what do you think the experience is like arriving in Canada as a refugee versus someone in a sort of skilled worker class? How do you think that's different, or how that's perceived by other people to be different?
It's not easy. You don't know anyone here. You come here you just have been accepted. You can't choose where to go. And we find it very hard with the weather here. When first we arrived, we have to start from zero, learn the language, make friends. It's not easy, and we need to find a job. So first, I think the thing is the culture difference is one thing. Then you need to build that trust and to prove yourself in the community, who you are, to show the, positive things and the good things about you, to make that relationship or friendship.
How much does it? How much impact does it have of how people who are from here see you, in your ability to make a new life and build community?
I think it's very hard to convince them that you have like qualifications or you have good skills. And especially maybe for, sometimes I feel like with my scarf, it's not very convenient for other people. I don't know, I have that feeling. So it's a bit challenging for me sometimes to, to make that, I don't know, when I meet other people for the first time.
So what does that feel like? So if we can talk about that for a second. So what do you see from other people? What do their faces do? What is it? Is it a worry? They don't want to do the wrong thing, but at the same time, what is the worry for them, and how do they respond that would make you feel that way?
Like I don't see them like very open with me. Like there is always some borders. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just a feeling,
Where do you think that's coming from? Is that a lack of knowledge on their part? Is
Maybe.
that the barrier?
Maybe because they see all scarfed ladies like maybe isolated, or they have some culture. I don't know how to say that, but it's a stereotyping, of all the ladies with a scarf, that they don't talk to men that much, or they don't have male friends maybe, or yeah. So.
And is it your job to educate them? Because it seems to me that it would be your job, or seem to be your job, to educate them as to who you are and what that means.
Right. I try my best when I meet with new people to show them that I'm comfortable with, like making conversation, or, like discussing things together. Yeah. I think it's my job first, and also from them, they have to have more knowledge about us or about me.
Could they just be a bit more curious? Could they be curious rather than judgmental, perhaps? What are some of the ways you think they can help?
That's a good question. I think to be more open and to, they start to talk for example, to talk to the newcomers when they meet or something. I don't know how to explain that, but to be more open is the most important thing, and to give them opportunities, and to believe in their skills, and that they came from like cultures and like they have background, right?
So what are a couple of pieces of advice
To the newcomers?
that you give to people, or that you would give to people?
Going out, meeting with people, not being isolated to their communities. That's very important. And, to do volunteering, to make that networking and build some relationships with other people. This is very important too. Just to trust themselves and to be confident, not to feel shy and, like they are not a part of this place.
I'm Asit Sarkar. Whenever I'm asked the question where I'm originally from, I have to give multiple answers. I'm from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And it's the countries which have been changing on me.
So tell me a little bit about when you arrived in Saskatoon for the first time, how long you've been here, but what you've been doing here for nearly 50 years.
Well, I've been here almost 50 years. We came in 1970 as a faculty member at the University of Saskatchewan in the College of Commerce, now Edwards School of Business.
And so what are your observations in 50 years when you first arrived, what the experience appears to be like for newcomers or immigrants to Canada or Saskatoon? How is that different now, do you think?
Well, at that time, there wasn't a settlement agency. There wasn't, we have actually seen the first involvement of community settlement and support through YWCA in the beginning, and then later on through the establishment of the Open Door Society, and in between informally through various church groups.
And so, what do you think some of the challenges remain for newcomers to Saskatoon?
Well, you asked me that. A lot of people still will look at me and think of a newcomer, even though I spent 50 years in this province, in this country, in this city. So and they wouldn't know that my whole all of that time has been contributing to the higher education in Saskatchewan, contributing to the economy of Saskatchewan, and now contributing to the community of Saskatoon and Saskatchewan at large.
So with that thought, what is the misperception about people coming here to take from the country and not contribute, and even the idea of immigrants being a drain on the system, drain on society?
I think people will find out once they get to know the individual beyond the surface, beyond your first look. Like, nobody would think of me being the person who was instrumental in getting many of today's major Saskatchewan businesses establish their first market foothold in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. And that was done through me leading trade delegation to these countries in Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, and you name it. So somehow we need to find a way to know our person, our new community members beyond the surface.
So what would you say would be advice that you would offer to people who are arriving here for the first time? Particularly, there was a gentleman who was here just earlier who's 3 months into his experience, who has 12 years experience, professional experience in his home country, and really desperately would like to see that recognized and validated. But actually he's finding it very, very difficult to get any kind of a job, let alone one in his professional field. What's how do you reflect upon the difficulty of a society telling you that actually what you've done before now just doesn't matter because you don't have the Canadian reference, you don't have the Canadian experience?
Yeah, that's something that I've been dealing with long time, and for me it was not possible for people to tell me that I don't have the Canadian experience. In a sense, I was recruited by the university, but my major focus of my research has been on Canada and its connection to the outside world. So therefore, I deliberately chose that thrust in my teaching and research, and that led me to essentially also be in 1992 be the essentially the leader in the internationalization of the University of Saskatchewan as a whole.
So what do you think about, we're much more aware nowadays of things like mental health issues. There seems to be a great need amongst newcomers to Canada and families to get help. But there's also seems to be some barriers for certain cultures, certain communities in actually accessing that help. Can you just sort of, what are your reflections upon the need for supports, the difficulty of asking for help, particularly from certain cultures?
I think I'd say a number of things. One is we really lack the support which might be called a bridging support between the newcomers' experience from home countries and use of those experience, those skills, in the most profitable way into the Canadian society, Canadian economy, Canadian professional fields. So we have been lacking in that bridging area. Engineering, I think we have made major improvement in the field of professional engineering, but we have not followed that approach in number of other professions, and as a result, the Canadian economy, Canadian professions, Canadian society, and particularly Saskatchewan society, has been not being able to get the full value out of the newcomers.
And so one of the other major challenges for people is actually building community. So finding their place, that sense of belonging. What has your changing thoughts been around the idea of people finding community, finding that sense of place, that people care about them, people respect them? That's one of the toughest things for people.
That's really toughest, but it's a two-way street. The newcomers have to look for everybody looks for places of comfort among their people of own cultures. But during the time we came, there were not that many people of our own culture. So therefore, we needed to go beyond our comfort zone. At the same time, you need to have people from here to become welcoming. And I was welcomed into a Rotary Club, one of the, at that time, 2 clubs in the city, and that has opened up my connections with the community in a significant way.
But that absolutely makes you need to step out of that comfort zone to take risks.
Yeah.
And actually taking risks as a newcomer is a tough thing to do.
Yes, and so I think, a lot of our immigration support immigrant support programs, activities should be focusing on reducing that risk for the newcomers, so that yes, I'm always apprehensive of how would I be received. Would they understand my English? What do they think about my my heritage wear? What would they think of my head covering if I'm a Muslim woman? And a whole series of things. If you want to look for differences as to how someone is not like you, you can find multiple things. If you want to look at similarities, say, oh yeah, so you came the same time. Oh, you are in the same field. Oh, you are, your kids go to soccer. Things like that. So more we can do that, I think that will be helpful.
My name is Ila, and I was born in India at that time, and I grew up in the first few years of my life was spent in some cities that have since become a part of India. Then my family, when we were young, my family moved back to what became a part of Pakistan, which is now called Bangladesh. But I never saw Bangladesh being born because we were already here in the United States and in Canada. Yeah.
So what was the reason that your family moved to the United States? How old were you? What was the reason they moved there?
Oh, not my family, it's myself,
Okay.
Like I got some kind of, like bursary to come to the United States, to be in a program called International Program for Social Worker and Youth Leaders. So I was one of the members of the group.
So what was your experience like arriving in the United States at that time?
Oh, it was like a dream come true. Like everybody sort of, like the country we came from, like was dreaming forever to go to United States or to England to study or to get a job so that they can have better life and escape in all the poverty and other difficulties in, I guess, not the country, like rich in all kind of resources and opportunities. So we didn't have that opportunities.
So tell me about when you moved to Canada and Saskatoon, and what work or what study or what work you were doing then.
Unfortunately, I came to Canada as being a wife of Asit Sarkar, and I didn't have any opportunity at that time. Everywhere I went, I was asked the question, was my degree, is it recognized here? What I've been doing, and what is my accent? Why do I talk funny? And do I know English? And all sorts of other questions, which are not relevant to my job or my education and so on.
And so what sort of impact did that have on you? What sort of impact does that have on many, whether they're spouses or other people coming from other countries, to have people and society say, we don't really recognize what you've done before, we don't know where you're from or what this means, and so the opportunities are not going to be the same for you here. What sort of impact does that have?
Impact was, I guess a severe impact on someone's mental health and your, self-esteem and so on. So you lose, everything that you thought, you were educated, you have good consciences and so on, and you understand lots of stuff, but suddenly I became nobody, So that's my, at the beginning, I was quite excited, as a new country. It was, what month was this? August to September. It's a beautiful place, and it was green and full of flowers and things like that. So I was very excited. But gradually, I was going down and down and down. I tried to get into some program or some kind of job, and it was very hard. But and especially, newcomer term didn't exist then. I was an immigrant and a woman, and short and dark, and I speak with accent. So those how people saw me, but didn't see me as Ela, who might know something or who might think something. She might have a brain. She didn't have a chance to, expose those qualities or share those qualities with anybody else.
So how did you then go on that journey to being valued and making a contribution? What did that change look like?
Well, fortunately, there are some other women are going through the same experience, I sort of, bonded with them. And I always have an interest of knowing other people from other culture or other countries. That's how, in the very first place, I was able to come to United States. So, and I guess my interest in knowing out other people, to bond with other people, sort of, helped me or led me to approach other women who are in the similar situation. And I saw there are many women in the same situation as me, so we talked about those things, and I approached many organizations. There was nothing called settlement agencies then. I went to YWCA and so on, and it just happened that at that time, some of the refugees are coming to Canada from Chile's and Vietnam's and so on. Somehow I felt that, I belonged to that group. So I sort of, I took initiative to go to YWCA and see, who are these people coming, if I can be of any help to them. So I started volunteering there. And it sort of, gave me lots of pressure and lots of comfort. So yeah, that's how I sort of made friendship with lots of people actually from different corners of the world. And gradually we talked about, like all the issues that we are facing at that time. So my approach was like, with regard to my job and education, I went nowhere. I thought, well, I might as well, join those other losers, so who are in the same boat and facing same difficulties, and we were having fun in that way. So at that time, there are other things I think there are lots of other women around the country were going through the same experience, and there was a dialogue of, I think, forming some kind of organization who will take up on the issues of immigrant women. So I became a part of that.
So tell me about that work today. What does that work look like that you're doing today?
I'm kind of, semi-retired. So that's my involvement in it. Then, at that time also, or like other settlement agencies like Open Door was the first one to come on. So I started volunteering at Open Door and so on. And everywhere else in the, I guess, community at large, nobody valued my English or my accent. And there was a woman at the Open Door Society, and somehow, she asked me, I said, why don't you teach English to these older people? I said, me teaching English? So no, like she said, people have to see that it's not the white people only can teach English. Maybe some other people with other color of skin also can teach English. So that gave me some confidence, and I loved, like doing all kinds of things with Open Door Society as a volunteer. But again, even there, when I wanted a paid job, that became a problem. So anyway, this is a long story, but that's how we sort of felt the necessity of, organizing women and organization. Oh, I think I should tell you, at that time, I guess they just started giving English lessons to, or English training to immigrants. Only men. Women are not allowed to take English lessons because they are not seen as a breadwinner of the families. So again, like these women, immigrant women, especially around the, I guess, around all provinces, around all cities, started speaking up against this kind of arrangement. Then, like, I guess, like the government or whoever, it's also a federally funded program anyway. So they changed their mind, then women also started getting English language training. But the next struggle was, what do we do with our babies and children? Then that's another struggle of immigrant women. And immigrant women again, and from around all parts of Canada started coming together, and I guess lobby for English language with childcare, and that also happened. And I guess I don't have right now, and I'm not prepared. I don't have a chronological history, but
That's okay. So think for a second just about the idea of community and belonging. We talk a lot about health and well-being. For you, what sort of messages do you have for people who arrive now? Because I'm sure you have lots of conversations around being able to find community, find that sense of belonging and place, to be able to stay. Because people come here with lots of aspirations, which are going to be difficult. They're going to have to be quite patient. What's some of the advice that you give to people about being patient, finding that sense of place and belonging, and how important that is?
You mean people...
When the people arrive here in Saskatoon or in Canada for the first time?
Well, I guess, tell them the first thing, well, take advantage of this English language training. Is free, and you are entitled to it, because lots of them are not taking English language training, especially women, because they have to look after the family and different other responsibilities. It's hard for them, and I guess some of them need extra income too. Like mostly, probably men folk will, get some jobs. Then these days again, women are able to get job too, but in very low paying, like service industries or something like that. So as a result, they're not taking the advantage of, English language training. So I encourage them. It's a learning process, it's educating ourselves. And when I say, ourselves means, who, as immigrant, who we come from abroad, and also the local people. They have to take responsibility, or rather, it's easy for the local people, I guess, to take this kind of approach, it's a proactive approach, because those who are new, they naturally would be apprehensive of these things. Oh, maybe my language. Because I belong to some organization, when I raise this issue, they tell me, oh, we are open, they can come. Well, it doesn't happen like that. They don't see themselves, the newcomer don't see themselves reflected in that kind of environment. So unless we sort of come out and extend our hand, or our friendship, is very hard to get them, I guess, to come to you and to participate, in some of the activities that local people do. Like, say, there are lots of at this time, lots of Christmas get-together going on and so on. Some of the organization that I belong to, and even with invitations, and nobody will come, because again, they don't feel comfortable, don't feel shy. Language is, well, it sort of separates them, like people like us, visually separates them, visually, because we look different, we dress different, we speak differently, so it's not easy, to sort of assimilate with others easily.